Rick and Morty Season 8's main villain Tease makes Rick Prime's death even more permanent. Rick and Morty Season 7 surprised viewers by killing off Rick Prime, and a Season 8 villain Tease makes it even more likely that his death is permanent. CUMARI. Rick Prime's death in Rick and Morty Season 7 brings his storyline to a close, though viewers have speculated about whether he could return. A Rick and Morty Season 8 tease suggests that the writers already have a replacement for Rick Prime. Evil Morty seems likely to become the show's new big bad, which could raise some interesting conversations. Rick and Morty Season 7 shocked viewers when it killed off Rick Prime, and a Season 8 villain Tease makes the death of Rick's nemesis even more permanent. Rick C-137 spends much of his life seeking revenge against the variant of himself responsible for Diane's deletion from the multiverse, and Beth's death in his home universe. However, it was still somewhat unexpected when Rick actually killed the villain in Rick and Morty Season 7, bringing this storyline to a close. Rick is left reeling after his nemesis' death, stuck with the realization that revenge will never bring back what he lost. Given Rick and Morty's sci-fi themes and repeated use of clones, there was speculation about whether Rick Prime was truly dead after the Season 7 development. After all, it wouldn't be the first time the villain survived a fatal blow. However, a recent Rick and Morty Season 8 villain tease makes it unlikely that Rick Prime will return in future installments. It seems Rick and Morty will focus on other stories after its Season 7 twist, and it will also have a new villain. Rick and Morty Season 8 is replacing Rick Prime with Evil Morty. Dan Harmon confirmed grand designs for the other villain. Rick Prime may perish in Rick and Morty Season 7, but Evil Morty is still around and capable of wreaking havoc across the multiverse. Evil Morty helps Rick C-137 finally get revenge against Rick Prime, but he tells the show's lead not to pursue him before disappearing from the scene. This is a foreboding statement on its own, and it suggests the show's main Rick and Morty may have a reason to go after Evil Morty soon. In an interview with Variety, creator Dan Harmon confirmed that Evil Morty still has a role to play in future episodes of the show. "We can expect to see him in the future," he explained. "We certainly have plans and grand designs with him for sure." Harmon's words suggest that Evil Morty will become the new overarching villain of Rick and Morty now that Rick Prime is gone. With Season 8 and other future outings poised to set up this replacement, Rick Prime's death feels even more permanent. After all, the Adult Swim show won't necessarily need both villains, and Rick Prime's death already concludes his story perfectly. Rick Prime versus Evil Morty. Which is the better main villain? Rick Prime is the better bad guy, but Evil Morty has potential. Evil Morty replacing Rick Prime as Rick and Morty's big bad isn't necessarily a bad thing, as he's a more interesting character in some ways. Although Rick Prime offers a compelling emotional arc for Rick C-137, his motivations are fairly simplistic. Rick Prime goes out of his way to hurt the other Rick variants because he wants to prove he's better than they are. He's a mean-spirited character, and it's hard to understand or relate to him. While such qualities make Rick Prime a better villain, he's certainly more intimidating than Evil Morty. They make it impossible to keep his actions interesting for very long. By contrast, Evil Morty has far more interesting origins and motivations than Rick Prime, as his wrongdoing is the product of the way Rick's treated him. Evil Morty has a more understandable reason for his wrongdoing, and it's one that will allow Rick and Morty to explore the unequal dynamic between its two leads further in future seasons. So, while Rick Prime is the better villain, Evil Morty still has the potential to become a worthy replacement. He may even surprise viewers with what he's capable of. How Rick Prime can still return in Rick and Morty's future. The series would have a hard time making it believable. Given Rick and Morty's sci-fi elements, Rick Prime could technically still return in future seasons of the show. However, it would be difficult to justify bringing the Rick and Morty villain back for multiple reasons. For one, Evil Morty deletes his backups before Rick kills him, eliminating the most likely setup for another appearance. Additionally, Rick killing his nemesis is something the series has built to for quite some time, and it would be a shame to undo the power of that Season 7 moment. Still, it's possible that Rick and Morty will reveal Rick Prime had another backup hidden somewhere, or that Evil Morty intentionally failed to delete them all. There's also the potential for Rick and Morty to use an even more outrageous sci-fi means to facilitate the villain's comeback. And of course, Season 7 doesn't actually show Rick landing the final blow, so there's always a chance he doesn't go through with killing Rick Prime. All of these possibilities would be difficult to pull off, but Rick and Morty has options if the writers ever want to bring the villain back into the fold.